Hello, everyone. This is Sasha Bernier from Hestia Holdings and Creativo. I'm excited to have Marc Blinder of Aikon. Gotten to know him for the past year, so excited. We were part of the team that invested in Aikon, so you're going to hear some great things. Marc, welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Well, Marc, this has been an exciting journey for us getting to know you and be involved with the stuff that you're doing. So would really just like you to just introduce yourself, like who is Marc and anything that you would like to start off with.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I'm Marc Blinder. I'm one of the founders of Aikon, along with Stefan Rover, Betsabe, and Trey, our CTO. We founded it back in 2017. Prior to that, I was involved in a whole bunch of different startups. I've been kind of a serial startup guy. I've been involved in some theater on the side as a passion project. I'm an American, did most of my adult life in San Francisco, but I live in London now. And yeah, really happy to be talking to everyone today.
Great. So Marc, you were one of the founders of Aikon. But can you talk about just the process of how you got there? Some of the companies that you were involved with, it takes a certain grit, a certain energy, a certain personality to be an entrepreneur. So we'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, well, I didn't study computer science in university, but I was always into technology, really passionate about it. And, when I first started my career, I was actually involved in political campaigns. But that role was very transferable because it's essentially marketing, right? If you look at what you're doing, you're like, oh, we're doing online ads and direct mail and stuff like this. It's like essentially a marketing role, just for people instead of products. And after taking a hit on a candidate, taking a loss on a candidate I really cared about, which I found pretty soul crushing back then. I decided to take a break from politics and try and get involved in the tech industry because I'd always been really passionate about technology. I was living in San Francisco and I was like, well, I may as well just be a San Francisco stereotype and go work for a startup. I was the marketing manager at a startup called Mobile Play, which is how I got my first startup job. And I think like a lot of people who are in the startup, you realize once you're in the door, there's a chance to do almost anything because at almost every startup, there's way more work to do than there is people to do it. So it's very easy to say, well, I was hired for marketing, but I want to get involved in product management. And there's opportunities to do a little of everything. At Mobile Play, I ended up actually over a 2-year period going from marketing manager to president of the company. And so that's really when I started to get executive, like entrepreneur experience where I was having to decide things with budget, having to present to investors, stuff like that. And so, that was a real, huge leap into the deep end. And I was very lucky. I happened to be working with a guy named Nate Redmond, who's an investor in my current company as well. As my entire tech career with this guy. And unlike the horror stories you read about all the time, he was really there to hold my hand when I didn't know what I was doing and help me. He was the first one who ever told me that all the graphs need to be going up and to the right, which I'm sure as an investor yourself, you probably appreciate. But, everything needs to be growing when you're in the startup business. And it was really a trial by fire. And we were early on in the use of Amazon Web Services back when it was only EC2 and S3. There weren't a lot of tools either. So we were really, me and Kyle were really learning as we went there, trying to make that all happen. And I think, I like to tell people I'm from New Jersey. Before I was from California, I grew up in New Jersey. So I really know how to take a punch.
I'm from New Jersey. I didn't realize we were both from Bruce Springsteen State. Okay, it's good to know.
Yeah. So, that's a lot of what it is in the tech space. I mean, since then, I've gotten to work with amazing people at a bunch of different startups at different stages. But there's always, you got to be able to keep a level head and kind of stick with it in tough times when you're at startups.
So Mark, you had a couple, I know you were involved in a couple of successful exits. You helped build a couple of successful companies. And then at some point in time, you probably started learning about crypto. When did you start transitioning to that? And when did you start saying, you know what, I think there's something here, I want to be involved? And what triggered?
Oh, well, that to me is an easy one. So my co-founder, Stefan, was a true believer, like techno libertarian anarchist type, right? And he was like true blockchain, like smart contracts will someday, everything will be on the blockchain sometime. And he and I were friends for many years before we ever worked together. And he was always talking my ear off about Ethereum and Bitcoin and like why this is the future. And, the more I came to understand it, the more radical it seemed to me. And coming from my background of politics with my background in technology, putting those two things together, all of a sudden you do have the most compelling and interesting thing I've ever been involved in the tech industry, because it's law, it's economics, it's technology, it's politics, it's power, it's the way the world works reflected in these new systems. And so once I started to understand that, it was like I just went deeper and deeper and deeper. And the thing about Web3 and blockchain is the deeper you go, the deeper there is to go. It's like the technology is moving so fast. The geniuses that are rolling out new ideas all the time, some colossal failures, some tons of creative destruction, like all that stuff is going on all the time. And so to me, it's the most intellectually interesting startup I've ever been involved in. And I've been involved in some pretty hot ones in the past, but it's just, there's nothing like it in terms of just using every part of your brain. It's totally awesome.
So you get involved, you found Aikon in 2017, which was the last major bear market. Walk us through that. What was the idea? What was the goal? And walk us through Aikon.
Yeah. So when we started out, we had this really big vision, like a lot of startup founders, right? And the big vision was to say, okay, if we take this blockchain stuff seriously, which we do, everyone's going to need an identity on the blockchain, and that's going to hold their rights and their assets. So maybe you have the right to your Netflix subscription or the right to the title to your car that you're going to unlock. And so when we started, we had this concept of the identity, the OR blockchain, which is OR.network, in case people want to look it up, and this kind of active NFT concept, which is you're going to hold NFTs in your wallet, and they're going to talk to off-chain APIs, and that's going to allow you to use your phone to open your Tesla or watch your TV because you paid for Netflix. Now, one of the things about some folks in this industry is they're often way too many years ahead of the time. And we were like that. So when we started going to the market in 2017, 2018, people were saying to us, whoa, this is a great idea, but just getting people to log in and interact with the blockchain is a big enough problem. And here we are 5 years later and really just simplified what we're doing today to really focus on a product called ORID, which is a cross-chain universal wallet, works across multiple blockchains, and lets a user log in with Google, Facebook, Apple ID, stuff people are used to, stuff they use all the time that's really easy. So we took this huge vision, which we're still working towards. That's still the 10, 20-year vision. But first, we got to get the mass market onto the blockchain. And so that's what we've been about for the last 5 years. Like you said, the bear market, that crypto winter in 2018 was brutal. Like almost all our partners and customers went out of business or pivoted or whatever. So we sort of limped out of that by 2019, but we survived. And now we've got over 20 people at the company. We've just raised this Series A, which we're part of. We're super proud of that, even though it's a bear market. Yeah, we've got a real business. We've brought in millions in revenue. We have real users with both end consumers and businesses we're working with. And so
Mark,
I think we've made it.
Mark, let's take a step back on really quick, because you hit on a very important point, which is in order for blockchain to grow, there needs to be the ability to adapt it for people to understand it. And one of the reasons why we were very interested in what you're doing was we are very active through one of our partners in the video game world. And what I saw was a lot of video games, they want to build video games, they have all these in functions, but they don't understand blockchain. And when you and I had a discussion, I was like, you know, if there was a way for someone that can, or a platform that can help other groups adopt the blockchain, we will see faster adoption. So it seems like you're really resolving an issue, even in the micro level. When I was talking to someone the other day over lunch, they're saying, you know, I don't understand this whole MetaMask. You know, I don't want to, you know, do that. It's just too complicated. Everyone just says, you know, it's just too complicated. I don't get it. It's just too complicated. You are resolving a specific problem. Talk about that again. Like, I think you should go into that, because I think like that's the power of it. A lot of people are trying to do it, but you've actually have done it. And it's interesting because you have a lot of platforms adopting what you're doing. So talk about that, because I think that that's really a very powerful thing about Aikon right now.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, Trey, our CTO, he's really passionate about this stuff, like building things that average people are going to be able to use, right? Super passionate about it. And I love that because to me, it's like the change we're hoping to have come out of the blockchain is only possible if it gets used by people all over the world, right? And so it's got to be easy. So, you know, when people use the blockchain today for the first time, you got a bunch of hurdles, right? So one, you've probably arrived at something you're interested in that got you a post or a new token that's launching, or an NFT project that, like, you know, maybe you heard of a Bored Ape and you want to go check out what that even means, right? So now you got this user who's on a mission to find out about something, and they have to go through a very windy road now, right? Because the first thing they have to do is, oh, now you got to go get a wallet. So you're already being taken wildly off course. And these are the problems we set out to solve, right? So first, you're being taken wildly off course. Oh, get this browser plug-in and plug something into your Chrome browser. So you're already like, that's not what I was interested in. What am I doing over here? Then the next thing you have is this problem of the wallet is going to be like, here's your private keys. Be afraid, be very afraid. If anyone's looking over your shoulder, you're screwed. If you're in a public place, you're screwed. If you put it on a piece of paper, you're screwed. Like, the only thing you can do is, like, I don't know, put it on a piece of paper, memorize it, eat it, then like take a mind erasing pill, right? So it's super scary. So first you get like, it's annoying, then it's super scary. Then you have to go actually put some money in the wallet. And so then you got to go like take out your money, and you've got this thing that is annoying and scary, and now you have to go pay for it. So that's a lot of big hurdles for an average person to come across if they want to like play an NFT game, right? So that's a big leap. Or even if they want to buy an NFT, right? Let alone do something more sophisticated like play a game. So what we set out to do was, okay, let's make this all seem as familiar as possible. So what we do is, you know, we let you log in with a login of your choice. So people are using Google to log in, or Apple, or Facebook. So that's how we authenticate who you are, something you're used to doing every day. We create the wallet in the cloud. So instead of this like really annoying detour where you have to leave the site and like go get a Chrome plugin, like we're doing that in the cloud. So now the game you were trying to play, you haven't like left that experience. You're just hitting the login button, and you choose a secret that we don't have. There's a term of art in encryption, right? You have a secret we don't have. And so we're keeping an encrypted key in the cloud for you, but we can't decrypt it. It's really important from a regulatory standpoint. Like, it's your keys, not ours. It's your wallet, not ours. It's your money, your NFTs, not ours. So you've got some secret we don't have, but we've given you the convenience of like logging in with Apple. Now the next step, and we don't show you the private keys. You could go export it later when you know what you're doing, if you ever want to do that. But we don't even show you that. It's too scary. You're too likely to screw it up. You just choose a password, which is something you're used to, and you already know how to protect a password. So the next thing we're doing actually is the fiat on-ramp part. We're just now launching that, so that also, without leaving that in-game experience, maybe you could take out a credit card or your bank details and put some money into the wallet if you have to. So, we're trying to take all the pain out of the beginning of this process so that we can get the people who aren't crypto heads, the people who aren't true believers, and give them an experience that's roughly as good as the experience they have today, so that then they could get over that hump to, okay, maybe I'll try this NFT thing, or I'll try this cryptocurrency thing, or this stable coin, or whatever.
No, I mean, I think, Mark, that's really powerful, because especially when I think about things at scale, if you think about gaming, gamers just want to game, right? They want to focus on their gaming. They love that aspect of it. And if I'm a gaming company and I know the power of the blockchain, and there's all these in-function uses of the game within the game that allows my gamers to adapt and continue doing what they're doing, then this could really be a way to resolve issues that gaming companies that don't have the time to focus on the blockchain to become more involved in clearly something that's very useful to them. So that's very
Yeah.
Can you talk about the OR token also? Like what is it? Because a lot of times people come out with tokens and there's really no utility, there's no use to it. Walk us through that.
Yeah. Well, and so this again, it's ridiculous that being in the blockchain space for 5 years makes you seem like old school or whatever, like an OG. I couldn't believe it the first time someone called me an OG. I was like, really? I just got here. But it's the OR token is a very classic old school utility token. So basically the OR network is run by a decentralized group of servers all over the world, and they are storing those top level identities for each user. So Marc Blinder in OR ID in our product has a top level identity sitting on the OR network. And then that identity controls a bunch of different wallets on different blockchains. So maybe there's a game over here on Wax, and there's something happening on Avalanche, and there's a finance thing happening on Telos. So I'm the same person. I control all these other wallets with this master identity. Now, because it's run by a decentralized group of servers, there needs to be an exchange of value. That's the utility, right? The utility is being provided by the servers, and the companies are basically using OR tokens to store those accounts on the chain. So it's kind of similar to something like Filecoin, except just for accounts, not for random data storage. If you want to put 10 times as many accounts on the chain because you're a game company launching a new game, you need 10 times as many OR tokens. And for the servers that are going to store all your data forever, they're getting paid those OR tokens, so they get shared upside with you as the user. So the providers and the users, they're kind of all in this together to create this network of increasing utility and value over time.
Right. So Mark, talk about it seems like you definitely have the technology to grow. Talk about like the growing pains of actually growing a business. Like, what have you learned, and where are you taking Aikon, and what's the ultimate vision now as you've done this very successful A round?
Yeah.
And some of the challenges also that you're facing.
Well, so I think one of the biggest challenges in the crypto industry are the bad perceptions, the bad brand around all the like scams and frauds and volatility, right? There's people all over the place think blockchain means Bitcoin, think Bitcoin is ransomware, or right, like the average person doesn't really understand the differences. And then you have these very public meltdowns, right? Like if you hear the way people talk about our industry in the press after Terra and Luna meltdown and billions of dollars are lost, people just crap all over the whole industry, right? And they don't see the difference between like, hey, Uniswap didn't lose a single dollar of anyone's money, but then meanwhile, Celsius lost everything, right? Like they don't differentiate. They're like, oh, here's this brush with tar and we're tarring all of you together, right? And so I think that's one of the really tough things in this industry is like getting over that hump of like, get away from me, scamster. And since we're like an infrastructure provider, we don't get that response, but you'll get companies that get interested in like, let's launch some NFTs, and then Celsius will melt down and they'll be like, whoa, we can't touch NFTs. It's too hot, too scary. So that's like, I think a tough thing in this industry that's different than other tech industries, right? Like if you're in AI, you don't have that same battle. Like there's the occasional person who thinks you're going to like destroy all life on Earth, but most people just kind of assume it's a normal.
Right, that's a good point. If someone has some AI model that predicted something wrong, they're not saying everything about AI is bad, right? But if it's one thing in crypto, it's you stress that forever. And that's, you only hear the bad things. You're not hearing the good things. And what we're hoping is with regulation that's coming out, you need to regulate the scammers and the bad things, but don't hinder the progress in technology, right? And I think that's a very good point.
And also it'd be great to have industry standards, right? There could be a code of ethics that we create ourselves where we don't have to wait for the government to do it. We could do it ourselves. It's the kind of thing that like, when I've had one too many cups of coffee, then I'll be like, oh, I'll write this up right now. But of course, like running a company, it makes it tough to do those types of things. But I would sign on to a code of ethics and I would help write it if there's someone else involved. Because I think there is a lot of that kind of stuff, like journalism where they have like a code of ethics that they've created. It's not really government mandated, and that's helpful too. And then you were talking about like the lessons learned running the company. And I think there's some big ones for me. I mean, I think in tech, things take longer than you think they're going to take. And so it's really important to be really careful. Like out of all my past companies, I had one that like totally failed where we lost all the investors' money out of, a bunch of others. And that was such a big learning experience to me because it was really learning that failure is possible. It's like right around the corner at any moment when you're in a startup. And like, as we've seen this year, it's like macroeconomic factors can come in and all of a sudden investors are scared, businesses are cutting down on their spending, stuff like that. So you really need to plan for the worst and have your mind wrapped around the worst. Not just thinking about the best. And then the other thing I think is a really important lesson learned is that like nothing matters more really in the end than customers, like something that customers actually want. And you could think it's the best idea in the world, and if people don't want it, and there's a bunch of human factors that go into that, if people don't want it, like there's no saving you. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful to people who are starting out on this startup journey. But yeah, it can be tough.
Mark, I mean, this was exciting times for you. I mean, we learned about you through Mighty Capital, which is a VC fund that we really respect. And when they reached out to us to talk about you guys, we were super excited. But this round was also led by Avalanche, one of their funds, and Morgan Creek. So that's very exciting, and it's proof of what you're building. Aikon's out. It's there, and it's ready for you. So who do you want reaching out to you to learn more about their product?
Yeah, I mean, certainly people in the gaming industry, fabulous. Like we want to talk to you. I think the idea of reusable in-game assets that you can buy and trade and stuff like that, like it is a slam dunk. People want it. If you aren't doing it in your games, you should think about it, and we can make that easy for you. And like you said, we have investors from like the Avalanche Ecosystem Fund, which is called Blizzard Fund. They are putting money in because they know we're going to bring users to the chain, right? We've also got customers doing things like banking the unbanked, which is close to my heart. It's something I really believe in. Blockchain is great for that, right? It works anywhere in the world. Anyone can have a wallet. You don't need a bank account, and you can pay someone a salary in there. We got people doing supply chain. So there's other things like that. But right now, if you're listening to this and you're in the gaming industry, definitely give us a call, give us a tweet, whatever. Let's talk. If you are trying to launch any kind of NFT,
how can they reach out to you, Mark? What's your email?
Oh yeah, so I'm well, we've got like at Team Aikon on Twitter, TEAMAIKON. You could also reach me at MarC at Aikon.com, AIKON.com. And we've got Telegram, all that kind of stuff. If you go to Aikon.com, there's like links to everything there.
Awesome. Before I let you go, Mark, one of the things that my other company, Creativa, we're passionate about is creatives. And you had mentioned that you were involved in plays. Like, I always find that those people that are creatives are some of the best entrepreneurs. So talk about that. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, well, so I got involved in theater originally as a sound designer. I'm like really into music. I love music. I did some sound design, but I also ended up writing some plays. I was involved in a theater company called Elastic Future with my partner Erin at the time. And, she and I got into sound design because I had a crush on her and I was trying to impress her. So like we had this theater company and we were trying to do this kind of immersive sort of different take on theater. This is back before it's like very mainstream now, but at the time was very unusual. And so we were writing new plays that were really specifically done for that different kind of theater. And like, I'm super proud of that stuff. It's something that I'll always think about. And I have some half-written plays. I definitely tend to do more, but that is one of the downsides of running a startup is it tends to push out a lot of the other things from your life. It's unbelievably time and energy consuming, but yeah, I had one that I wrote called The Unauthorized Autobiography of Kim Deal. And that was, it was when they were doing all these theater around like rock stars. But instead of doing her real life story, it was a made up life story just based on the lyrics from the music. And so I was kind of like, to me, it was about like, what is celebrity? And like when you're looking at this person and like putting this idea on who, like this person's a normal person, a real human being, but you're just putting this like big symbolic story onto them. So I thought that was a really cool one. And we did it in a bar in San Francisco called Amnesia, and people were standing up and getting drinks, and there's like rock band on the stage and they're like talking to you between songs in the middle of the set. So that was super cool. We had one called Beautiful, which was done in a warehouse in the Mission. And we filled it with couches and pillows and lamps and stuff, so it looked like you were kind of in someone's living room. And the whole shtick was that you had been invited to a party, so you were the guest at the party, the audience. And we gave out free wine with the ticket. We got the like $2 chuck at Trader Joe's and the $4 chuck. Really, we didn't give people the $2 chuck, the $4 chuck. And we'd pour you wine when you came in, just like it was a party. And we also gave people, there's a lot of like drag performers and like gender bending stuff in the play. And so we gave people $5 off their ticket if they arrived in drag. So we had a lot of people in like very amateur drag in the audience with like free wine and like in this warehouse. And then the whole thing was like the heroes of the play were throwing this party in a warehouse. They've invited you all to. And then the villains were these like fish waiters. They had like fish, human-sized fish that worked at a fish restaurant. So they're like cannibals, like super evil. And they were kind of the bad guys. working for the status quo. And there's, all sorts of ridiculous shenanigans in this warehouse. But yeah, it was like that kind of stuff. It's just so fun and it's so fulfilling. And I just love seeing an audience like smiling and laughing and clapping. It's just the best feeling in the world.
Well, I can tell you, Mark, I think like your energy from your creative side is definitely going to carry you through at Aikon. And I think what you're doing is dope. And it's great to see New Jersey representing. So excited to be part of the journey with you. And we're gonna stay in touch, brother. And we'll be continuing to talk. Thanks for the
Talk
time.
to you soon.
Okay, Mark. Good job. Talk to you soon. All right, bye.